Good morning and welcome to Tech Talks again. Today I have E of Flutterwave, one of the founders of Flutterwave. And so they're going to tell us about the great Flutterwave and the waves that they actually have made in the payment space. So E, welcome to Tech Talks.
Thanks so much. It's a
coming.
pleasure.
So Flutterwave, how old, how big, what are you doing?
How big? It's growing, it's growing. The Flutterwave was actually born out of a desire to see Africa move into the digital economy. So for us, the underlying kind of case for our existence is that we're a continent that's young, that has promise, and that's growing, and is a rapid adopter of technology. And you just have to look at what you've seen with M-Pesa in Kenya and what's going on around Nigeria, even with USSD, and how progressive our technology environment is. And then you quickly realize that we're very quickly one of the few continents that still has that ability to not disrupt, right, but to expand into the digital space. And every company is looking at that, looking at how can they move their business from the analog economy to the digital economy. Now, at the end of the day, right, companies exist to pay and get paid.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So for us, it was, if companies are going to be moving into the digital economy, how do we create the underlying infrastructure that makes that happen? And then how do we partner with the right stakeholders to enable companies, enable small businesses, enable individuals to access the opportunity in the digital economy? So that's why we exist.
So you're taking two bets. You're taking the bet that people are going to use digital instead of cash, the businesses that you were going to talk to, and you also decided we're going to take on the establishment, because you're taking on.
Maybe not take on the establishment. I think we have a different view. Okay. I think we're going to enable the establishment.
Okay.
Right.
The establishment being who?
The establishment being the people still in the analog economy, struggling to grow because of what it means in terms of cost.
So my question is that, so the establishment I mean here is the existing payment infrastructure that was there before you.
Oh, is that what you mean by the establishment?
Oh, of course, yes, exactly. Yeah. You're trying to be very careful there. No, payment.
Well, see, I'll tell you this, right? Even the existing payment infrastructure that exists, right? In many ways, we are willing partners, and we work together with them to enable it.
Yeah.
The practical example is our partnerships with Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah.
Right? Realistically speaking, Visa and MasterCard just haven't achieved the penetration that was promised 12, 15 years ago when we started on this journey with card payments, right? It's less than 1% of transactions in Nigeria, for example. Electronic transactions that happen over the web are happening with them. Less than 4% of merchants are adopting digital payments. Yeah. So even they realize that there's a need for them to think differently about what it means to be a card payments brand.
So would you say that you're the last mile? You're providing the last mile in that payment space, or one of the last miles from a merchant perspective?
From the merchant doesn't see us. Yeah. Right? They see the institutions they trust, like the bank, like their local insurer, like their church. Because we're always behind the scenes.
I know, but we see you now, but it says powered by Flutterwave.
Well, I mean, that's more of an element of trust for those who understand what it means. Yeah. But we're completely fine with not even showing that. Yeah. And in fact, you'll find in some of it's actually demanded by the customer when we put that out. Yeah. It's a funny phenomenon. Yeah. But realistically, what we want to look at ourselves as is we look at ourselves as a backbone. Yeah. Backbone infrastructure rather than last mile. Last mile should come from the institutions you trust, while we provide backbone infrastructure that enables the last mile to scale in ways that were previously not profitable for these institutions.
So what do you think about USSD?
It's a revolution. It's a revolution that could be, it could be short-lived.
Well, because, I mean, I think it's a phenomenon because one of those bleeps in the payment spectrum, because it should not exist.
No, it shouldn't.
It should not exist, considering that the more smartphones actually come into the country, data is getting better and more widely used, and suddenly you see these things that are just completely disrupting point of sale POS terminal payments.
Completely. Yeah. See, the thing is, it really points to the fact that despite regulation, despite pressure, market forces still prevail. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you really have to look at it from the perspective of the merchant. The only POS I need is my phone. Yeah. No matter what kind of phone it is. Yeah. So if you're coming to me and telling me buy this piece of hardware for 90,000 naira versus just enter a merchant code on your phone,
exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So when do we see that? When do we see the market and people realizing, or even banks as well realizing that, and regulators realizing that instead of us spending and the institution now, we're spending billions of dollars
buying foreign equipment,
cars, point of sale terminals. Let's use. We already have the web.
We already have the web and mobile.
Exactly.
So we're actually in the middle of. It's funny. On Saturday, we're having this small experiment at eDrink Lagos, where essentially we're going to have 15 merchants all selling food, and we're going to be demoing something we call Rave Teller, right? Which is it's kind of like a modern version of a POS terminal.
Okay.
It's on your phone. It allows you to enter an individual's international or local card details, or allow them to pay with their bank account, or allow them to pay with USSD, right? And then right there and then confirmation is confirmed, you get a receipt. No need for a POS.
This is your M-Cash. This is your answer to USSD M-Cash.
USSD M-Cash, all payment types in one.
But I think it's all good.
And it's going to be merchant apps. So if this is successful, we're actually going to be working with banks to build merchant apps. Because I think that's what's missing in the market.
It is definitely.
You have an app for the consumer. Where is the app for the small business?
Exactly.
Right?
That is cost effective.
Cost effective. Enables me to keep control of my business. Gives me access to different offers. So imagine, I need a loan. Rather than come to the bank, I can go and access loans from the likes of Ayala Credits and Lydia and Jumo, wherever. I have a marketplace. And based on my transaction flows, they can lend. And then you can backstop them at the back. And you take less risk.
And they own their data.
They own their data.
They have control of their data.
They can share with whoever they like.
They share with their banks and they can get money for that.
That's the future.
That's the future.
That's
Definitely.
And then they can also build out their supply chain. Because you see, one of the funny things about electronic transaction records is that you actually start to see a pattern form. You understand, who is this guy getting his supply from? And how can we help make it more efficient? Before, we only used to offer hedging products to large companies like Facebook and so on and so forth. Then we realized small business merchants are suffering. They need to be able to get dollars so they can access their goods and import them from China, import them from wherever that they're importing them. And then we actually started offering that hedging product to some of our medium scale enterprises. And it quickly caught on. So it just shows you the different opportunities and how much more insights banks will be able to have when they can tell the small business merchant, here's an app for you. And it completely disintermediates the need for a POS terminal.
I think that's I think one of the great things about the digital revolution is that the amount of data that we begin to see and the understanding of customers. And my question is, why are people using USSD? So why are people who have smartphones
using USSD?
Using USSD.
You know what I think it is? I think it's ease of use. So you see, with a smartphone, there are many steps to get into truth, which is the transaction is resolved. With USSD, it's one tap. One tap. In fact, we actually we had in our internal lab, we demoed this product where you enter your phone number for a USSD transaction, right? And we immediately text you a USSD string for the merchants. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course,
Immediately. It has the short code. And all you do is, if you're on an iPhone, you can just tap it. And you've paid.
So, NFC, because I think for that, regardless of I look at governments trying to drive cashless policy. But I think it is the innovation, the solutions that come out that will determine
how it works.
How it works. And I think NFC is one of those things where I'm thinking mobile to mobile, P2P. Tap and
there's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of stuff coming. I've been looking at a lot of solutions. There was one we checked out because we actually have folks that are out in the field in China, all over the world, looking at the best products. We checked out one where literally it was phone to phone, but over secure Bluetooth. You could actually pay each other. But I think, let me tell you the biggest challenge for NFC. The biggest challenge for NFC is two things. One is identity, because I want to be able to lock your identity to your device. Just because I want the extra security that there's no fraud going
Why?
on, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is two-factor.
Yeah.
Two-factor might be the reason why we don't get an NFC revolution sooner.
So let me ask a question. I mean, do you think sometimes we as a country or as regulators, we overemphasize on security, right, than innovation? So I look at the Oyster card in the UK, and I just think, really and truly, what is the probability of someone going to go into great details, right, to steal,
to do all that?
So
I agree.
So it's a question of a transition. Okay, you know what? NFC payments for 1,000, 2,000 naira, or shall I say 10,000 naira when you go to a shop.
Yeah.
So those things now become, I mean, who's going
commonplace? Who's going to really do
now?
it?
If you want to do it 10,000 naira above, you have to put your PIN number in.
Yes.
So those kind of things, but at least start from somewhere. So instead of just over-regulating it before we get there.
The regulator will need that nuance.
Yeah.
But I think another thing is, as an ecosystem, we also have to come to the place of understanding the idea of service before safety.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Exactly.
So one thing we've done at Flutterwave, for example, we have a $1 billion insurance policy for all our merchants. I think we're the first to ever do that. So we don't want to hear a story. We have $1 billion chargeback insurance. So once the chargeback comes in, we'll pay you first.
Yes, exactly.
Then we'll discuss what actually happened, where should the money come from, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think if everybody adopts this idea of service before safety so that we can build trust in the ecosystem, what then starts to happen is we can then better understand. Everybody has an incentive to better understand with data how to mitigate risk. That's number one.
Yeah.
But number two, we build trust in the system.
Yeah.
So right now, the whole process of I have to go to a bank, I mean, our American counterparts don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, the new buzz now is, the new fintech is going to kill the banks.
That's the biggest joke.
Fintech is going to kill the banks. Then people talk about, what's that? Apple Pay type.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually more worried about that. I'll be honest. Yeah, GAFA. I'm very worried about GAFA. See, look. So I saw this chart the other day from Facebook, and they had this map of the world, and they said we're looking for our next 2 billion users, and they put a chart of where they would get those users.
Yeah.
1.3 billion of those users are in a region they've called Middle East and Africa. Now, the largest country in that region is Nigeria.
Okay.
So I worry a lot about the way they think about the market and what it means for our institutions when they come in. Right? And these are good people. They're good friends of mine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that our institutions now have to take the gauntlet and understand that the competition is not in Nigeria.
That's the question. Do you think that those guys are really serious?
No, they are very serious.
So one time, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in one of these postgraduate courses. So Facebook came to the class. So I said, you guys have a billion people, but you have no presence in Africa. You have presence in Nigeria. So we have these business solutions for corporates, but who do I talk to when I'm here in Nigeria? And I think about Apple Pay, and I think, why was things like Apple Pay produced? Certainly not because of the Nigerian market, because if you look at here in Nigeria, because of likes of Flutterwave and your competition, I can effectively walk around Lagos today, even it's very close, cashless and cardless.
Yes.
Because I can pay through my phone.
Yes.
I can do P2P. I can say what's your account number and do that. So where does things like my cards come into play? Because right now I don't even know what I can't remember the last time I used my card, my Visa card, payment card. But I don't need it. All I need, even when I want to use when I'm making a merchant payment through one of the systems, all I need is my account number. Not my card. And very soon it's
going to be your phone number.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're already there. We're already there.
So Apple Pay, for me, Apple Pay is like, that's a solution for that market where instant payment, right, is a premium. Here in Nigeria, it is a given.
Here's the challenge, though.
Okay.
They own the OS. We always have to remember that they own the OS.
System,
In the case of Apple, they own the device. Right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine a scenario where Apple basically becomes the platform of choice for shops like Cafe Neo.
It will never be.
No. Well, you can't say so. If it comes with all the bells and whistles that you need to accept any form of payment.
It will never be now, because Apple, first of all, this market, China is still going to be the market.
The thing is that markets turn quickly. You know what I mean? You don't know. See, there's a lot of very funny people who come here.
Yeah.
And you don't know who they are. And you don't know what their intention is. And they're not bad people. They're here to scout, right? But our market is easily penetrable, especially because our government regulation is driven by other forces.
So I believe you. So I tell you who the biggest threat is. Definitely not Apple. It's probably Google.
I agree. I agree. I'm using Apple as a proxy for GAFA and all of them, because ultimately I'm not going to tell you what their plans are.
No, of course not.
You won't know. But then one day they would come. You would just see something happened.
Yeah. But and I get the challenges. But I think now, I think 20 years ago, maybe if you read once a week about what's happening in the world, that was good enough. Today you have to read every hour
every
of the day.
Every hour,
and
they just announce something,
exactly, to make
and
sure
you're like, what's going on? Even things I think I know about.
Exactly. What you knew about a minute ago. Yeah?
You know.
So, what's the next big thing for Flutterwave? Final question before we.
For me, it's we've been very. We want to connect Africa to the rest of the world. I think that's kind of the big thing for us. If we are going to be equals in this relationship with the rest of the world, we have to be able to put our own out there, right? We have to be able to put our own platform out there. We can't allow global forces to shape the way our digital economy works, the way it runs, how it functions. So what offense is the best defense. That's what they say, right? So for us at Flutterwave, we've put our foot down in San Francisco. We're hiring people there. We're doing the same in London. We're hiring people there. PSD2 is coming. I don't know how prepared Nigerian banks are for that. That's an opportunity to take our country back. So for me, and then we're also expanding into several other markets, several other African markets, and looking at how can we connect to other global centers. Alipay, connect to Tencent, connect to... So that's for us is the next thing. It's how do you build a global payments company that's focused on Africa to defend Africa's economic interests?
So so that was my last question before the last question. So how, and one of the ways to take back Africa is actually trade within the continent.
Absolutely.
How do we, and if I want to make a payment to someone in the Republic of Benin right now, I have to make a payment, a foreign currency
Swift
payment.
goes to Belgium, come back.
Pay the fees, so that cost. So any plans? So how are we going to work with? I know we're looking at some of the DFIs in Africa saying they need to be a settlement bank where African trade can
happen,
and we need people like you guys to play a role in that.
No, we definitely are, and I think it's actually going to be more of all the banks coming together and saying, look, we now have a Pan-African, and that's what Flutterwave enables for banks. All the banks we work with, we encourage them to say, look, Nigeria is a big market, but every year there's $9 billion going from Nigeria to other markets. In Africa, what happens if we make it easier? I'm sure, because I see people on the plane. I go to a lot of African countries because as a result of this expansion, and I was on a plane one time to Senegal, and I saw people with cash in their waist bag going to buy goods from Senegal. So I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Massive.
And beyond even that also, one other question I've always been asking is, why aren't more of our banks thinking about becoming global banks? I mean, DBS has a Wall Street location. I know the regulatory wahala is massive, but we need to even think beyond Africa. We need to think global. And why do I say that? The truth of the massive wealth of Africa is in its diaspora. $380 billion of electronic payments in 2015. 80 billion of that came from remittances from diaspora. So that money is banked with Citibank, Standard Chartered, and so on.
Do you believe you can be a global bank without having physical global presence?
Today, yes.
So exactly. So that's where we're going to.
Yes.
So that's where we're all going to. So I don't think so. If you look at Diamond Bank's vision was to be in all the financial markets in the world. But right now, all we need to do is provide services to every Nigerian, regardless of where they are in the world. And so I think that is what digital is going to allow us to do. It's going to enable us to leapfrog and to redefine the playing field. And I think that's where you're right, where Africa has the advantage, because for us to penetrate the markets, we have to use technology and digital. We can't do anything else.
You can't scale any other way.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't scale any other way.
It's been great. We can talk for hours.
Yeah, we can. We should actually do that.
We should do that offline.
Offline.
Great.
Offline.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.